bring the.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan, no?
Beryl, I'm going to mute you because we're able to hear everything. Oh, okay, it's muted. Okay, the Gemara is here. Hopefully, you can see it. Gewaltig. Shut off the YouTube. Oops. Where did that go? Funny.
Yosy,
Yeah, can you hear me?
am I muted? No.
I can hear you. You are
Okay.
not muted.
Yeah.
You're not muted. Okay, Zok the Heilige Gemara. We are up to
Omer Shmuel.
Omar Shmuel. So let me get down to where we're up to. Omar Shmuel Zu Divrei Rabbi Huda the Omar Ein Choshin Lazera. Well, we had a discussion. What was our discussion? Hananya holds that Sai an Av Ubana is Osir and Sai an Aim Ubana is Osir to Shach B'Yemechad. The Rabbanan said it's only Aim Ubana, not Av Ubana. So that by definition, Zoktun's Shmuel is the discussion of Choshin Lazera Av.
Right.
If the Torah is telling you that even Av Ubana is Osir Lishat B'Yemechad, that means the Av has a shaykhis to the Vlad. His input is an important, noticeable input. And therefore, the Isser of Oishavas B'nai applies with the father in us. On the other hand, Rabban, no, the father's garnished. The Torah is only recognizes the connection between the Amen B'nai, and therefore only Oishavas B'nai is Osir B'Mechad, but not Avu B'nai. That is how we understand the machlokes of Hananya and the Chacham.
Yeah.
So Zok Shmuel, this machlokes, if Choshin la'av ubenoi, Amar Rav Huna Bar Chia, Amar Shmuel hilchazok kechananya. We paskin like Hananya, but other Shmuel temei, and Shmuel actually elsewhere also tells us the same halach that Choshin lezera. Where does he tell us this? It's not, we have a mission. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and this is the Gabi the Isser Klai. Haneilodin minasus. Any animal that's born from a mother that's a sus, even though Alpha Pisha Vien Chamor, even if the father is a donkey, so we're talking about a mule. Any mule whose mother is a sus, we don't care if the father's a donkey. Muterin zebozeh. So that means if you have two animals and both animals share the same pedigree, their mother was a sus and their father was a chamor, they're allowed to be mated together and it wouldn't be an Isser Klai. Avol hanelodin min chamor, im hanelodin min sus. But what if you have two mules? One mule, the mother is the chamor and the father is the sus. The other mule, the mother is the sus and the father is the chamor. Asurin, that would be Asur. That would be Asur. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and if you just said in the name of Shmuel, Zu Diver Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Ein Choshin Lezera. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, the father's garnished. The Torah is only recognizing the connection between the Amen B'nai, and therefore only Oishavas B'nai is Osir Lishat B'Yemechad. That is how we understand the machlokes of Hananya and the Chacham. So Zok Shmuel, this machlokes, if Choshin la'av ubenoi, Amar Rav Huna Bar Chia, Amar Shmuel hilchazok kechananya. We paskin like Hananya, but other Shmuel temei, and Shmuel actually elsewhere also tells us the same halach that Choshin lezera. Where does he tell us this? It's not, we have a mission. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and this is the Gabi the Isser Klai. Haneilodin minasus. Any animal that's born from a mother that's a sus, even though Alpha Pisha Vien Chamor, even if the father is a donkey, so we're talking about a mule. Any mule whose mother is a sus, we don't care if the father's a donkey. Muterin zeb This Rabbi Yehuda is the shita of Ein Choshen L'Zera. So therefore, I don't care who the father is. Hanaylodim in a chamor has a din of a chamor. Hanaylodim in a sus has a din of a sus. A chamor and a sus are client. Their fathers were the other ones, so they really have the same pedigree. We don't look at the father at all. So therefore, Noiled min sus is 100% sus. Noiled min chamor is 100% chamor, and Avada sus and the chamor may not be mated together. That's Rabbi Yehuda shita. But the Chachamim argue, and they say, Kol mine predois achasim. Any mule that's made of a sus and a chamor, it's one and the same. Man Chachamim, who are the Chachamim who hold that Choshen L'Zera Ha'av? It's Chananya, the Omer Choshen L'Zera Ha'av, and therefore we don't really care if the mother was a sus and the father was a chamor, or if the mother was a chamor and the father was a sus. It doesn't matter because we're Choshen L'Zera Ha'av. They both count, and therefore v'hai bar susya v'chamra, v'hai bar chami v'susya. They both of their pedigrees include both origins, sus and chamor. So therefore, that's not called klayim. They're both the same. Kulu chado minonin. So you see clearly that Shmuel is saying that the divrei chachamim is choshen l'zera. If Shmuel is attributing the shita of choshen l'zera to the chachamim, the roiv neged the yochid Rabbi Yehuda, it shows clearly that Shmuel holds like that, which means Shmuel holds like Hananya and the chachamim over here that choshen l'zera. And therefore, they're both the same mixture of chamor and sus. It doesn't matter if it's the mother or if it's the father, as long as between the mother and the father, there's both chamor here and sus here. Iboilu. So the chamor is a shayla. Umi pashut leila Rabbi Yehuda dein choshen l'zera. That Rabbi Yehuda says it's usher for a noiled min sus to be mated with a noiled min chamor. Is that because he holds bivadois ein choshen l'zera, and therefore this is a sus and this is a chamor, and it's vadai klaim? Oy dilma tzvukim esavkale. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda is not sure that ein choshen l'zera. He's besupik, and you have to go l'chumra, and therefore you don't allow a noiled min sus to be mated with a noiled min chamor, because maybe ein choshen l'zera, and maybe it's klaim, but maybe it's a sof. Lamai nafkamina. Where would it happen nafkamina la'alocha if it's a suffix? The Gemara very simple. Lemishner pre-imain. What if a mother horse mated with a male chamor, and now they gave birth to an animal, to a preda? If this preda has a din of a sus 100%, because vadai ein choshen l'zera, then this preda could mate with its mother, or with a min just like its mother, with a sus, because it's only a sus. But if it's a suffix, ichashina l'zera av or not, then me suffix, this preda wouldn't be able to mate with a sus either, because maybe yachosh l'zera. It's only a suffix. So if we know for sure ein chosh l'zera, then this animal could mate with a horse. Therefore, free ima'ain would be shari. But if you're going to say that it's a suffix to the chachamim, if chashin and l'zera ha'av or not, well then pre ima'aim would be awesome. Pre ima'aim would be awesome. So I just want to stop for a minute. This shaila of chashin and l'zera ha'av and the shaila we have now is whether or not whether the chacham who hold whether Rabbi Yehuda holds chashin l'zera it's a suffix or a vadai, that would be very good in this shaila when it comes to climate. But if we go back to the machlokes Hananya and the Rabbanon, where the Rabbanon say there's no iser oisoi v'esbenoi by a father, there he must be sure that ain't choshen l'zera av. Because if we suffix choshen l'zera av, so then weiter there should be an iser oisoi v'esbenoi misafik. So it must be that there. I don't think the shaila is negate to Oishavas Benoi. The shaila is like a client. That the Chachamim here, or that Rabbi Yehuda over here says that Ein Choshishim L'Zer Ha'av, is that a Vadai or is that a Suffix? If it's a Vadai, then this Preda could mate with a horse. If it's a Suffix, the Preda could not mate with the horse. Zok Gemara Toshma. The Gemara tries several rayas. Raya number one. Toshma. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and we're talking according to Rabbi Yehuda, well, it's Choshin L'Zer Ha'av. Kol Anay so Ein Choshin, Rabbi Yehuda Ein Choshin L'Zer Ha'av. Kol Anay Lodin Min Asus. Any animal that was born from a sus, so the mother was a sus, Aval Pi Shavi and Chamor, even though the father was a Chamor, Mutar and Zebos. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's Chiddush, that if its mother was a sus, even though its father was a Chamor, it could marry a similar animal. Hekadamis, what precisely is the case that Rabbi Yehuda is referring to in this brayz? Ilema Davu Dahai Chamor, Bavu Dahai Chamor. If you have two animals with exactly the same pedigree, a mother a sus and a father chamor, to mate with another animal whose mother is also a sus and father is a chamor, no matter what you hold, whether you hold choshin l'zerav or ain't choshin l'zerav, either way, these two animals are identical, and it's not a chiddush to say that they could mate. So if Rabbi Yehuda telling us a chiddush that kol anoylad min asus they could mate, it must be a bigger chiddush, and it must be elolav da'avua da'hai sus va'avua da'hai chamor. It must be that Rabbi Yehuda is saying a chiddush that even if this animal, both its parents are sus, and this animal only its mother is sus, but its father is a chamor, they could be mated together. The katani mutar zemzeh. Alma klor mivshat pshitale. It must be poached that loy chayshin and lazera av, and therefore you only look at the mother, because if it was a suffix, if chayshin lazera av, then how could you allow them to mate? It's possible that the animal whose father is a chamor is different than the animal whose father is a sus. And the fact that the reader says that zichem mutter is a klor raya, that the reader knows for sure that ein choshishin l'zera av. It's not a suffix.
Well, why the other one is a chamor and it's not a sus?
I'm sorry?
If the mother was a chamor, then it's chamor.
We're talking about two cases where the mother's a sus. Right?
Okay. In both cases, the mother is a sus. Okay.
So the whole question is if the father was different. So it must be that Rabbi Yehuda is saying even if the father was different, it's still going to be mutter. So that means it's mifshet pshitolei. So Kamar la'olam davu da'hai chamor ma'vu da'hai chamor. I would ka'amr tzricha l'meimar. You told me it's not a finish because they both have the identical pedigree. No, there's still a question. You know what? We know the halacha is what happens if someone who's a chatish evet chati ben chayr, is he allowed to marry a woman who's chati shit with chati bas chayr? The answer is absolutely not, because maybe his tat chayris will be bekeya in her tzad abdus, and maybe his tzad abdus will be bekeya in her tzad chayris. So maybe the same thing. Maybe if they both have the identical pedigree, maybe it would still be klayim. Ma the time oti tzatzus mishtamish b'tzat chamor b'tzat chamor mishtamish b'tzat tzuz. Kamash malom that it's mevabel zari. We don't say that they retain distinct parts. Rather, it becomes one big homogenized mixture, and therefore the two mixtures are identical, and therefore there wouldn't be a problem of kalayim. But you don't necessarily know that vada you're not choshesh l'zera ha'av. Could be misofik. You are choshesh l'zera ha'av, but vibat you have two animals with identical pedigree. Therefore, they're allowed to mate. Why is that a chiddush? Because it tells you that naval was high.
So that alone will tell you ain't choshesh l'zera ha'av, no?
No, you're choshesh l'zera ha'av. They're both sus and chamar. They're both sus and chamar, so they're not klayim. But you're choshesh l'zera ha'av because maybe the chamar part does play a role. But since they both have that same chamar part, they're still not klayim.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try another right. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, again, the shayla is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda who said, "Ein choshesh l'zera is it vada or is it sochik?" Rabbi Yehuda Omer prayed the shetova. You had a mule that was in heat, and you needed to find an animal to mate it with. What type of animal can you mate with this preda? Again, this preda has one parent, a sus, and one parent is a chamor. The halach is ein marvin aleh. You're not allowed to mate with it. Loy sus, not a horse, because it's not a pure horse. Loy chamor, and not a pure chamor. Elamina, only an animal that is exactly the same combination. Break the Gemara. The Amrit Mipshat Pshitale. If you're going to tell me that Rabbi Yehuda holds Vadai Ein Choishishin Lazera Ha'av Lirba Allah Mina De'ima. Why don't you just see what the mother is? And if the mother's a sus, why don't you make this preda with a sus? And if the mother's a chamar, let this preda be nizdavik with a chamar. It must be that it's a sopik, and that's why you have to be machar. Zogt Gemara lavdavke. Maybe the loyadina min the imamati. You have a preda. Who said you know what the mother was? You don't know. You have a preda. You don't know what its mother was. So therefore, misafik, you can't be mizavik with anything because you don't know what it is. Right, Gemara, but how could you say that? The Lord's of Rabbi Yehuda was you're not allowed to be marvi elamina, which means you could be mizavik it to its min. How could the bride say you're mizavik it to its min if you don't know what its min is? Zokt Gemara, the bride doesn't mean to say you're mizavik it to its min. The bride means to say you cannot be mizavik it to anybody because you don't know what its min is. No mixture at all. You know why? Because we don't know if its mother was a sus or if its mother was a chamor. And therefore, you cannot be mizdavik this with anyone. Frank the Gemara, but there are physical attributes that allow us to make a distinction between a sus and a chamor. So look at it, and I'm sorry, I have to be clear. There are physical attributes that will allow us to make a distinction between if its mother was a sus or if its mother was a chamor. So why don't you use those simanim, and through that you will know if its mother was a sus and if its mother was a chamor, and then you could be mizavik to the min of its mother if you hold vadai ein choishishin. Frank the Gemara lived with simanim the Amar Abaye avikale if it has a deep voice bar chamra. That's a siman that the mother was a chamor. Tzniv kale if it has a light voice bar susha, it's a raya that the mother was a sus. V'yomar papa more simanim Raver v'en udnei if it has big ears v'zutra gedufte and a small tail bar chamra. That means its mother was a donkey. Zutra nudnei if it has small ears v'rabba gedufte and a big tail bar susha. That would mean that the mother was a sus. So why can't we figure out the min of its mother merely by looking at its physical attributes? Zokt Gemara bigu kimta hacha b'maya skinon bi'ilemes bigidemes. We're speaking about an animal that didn't have ears, it didn't have a tail, and it didn't have a voice. So you couldn't tell on any of the simanim what it was, and therefore you cannot be mezavig it. So we're back to our shaila. That Rabbi Yehuda said, Ein Choshen L'Zerav, is it Vadai or is it just L'Chumra? My Havala, what happened with the shaila? Now we're going to bring a raya that's going to stick. The Omer Abhuna B'Rei Rav Yeshua, HaKoel Moedim, everybody is Moedeh B'Pri Ima'eim Sha'asur. Everyone's Moedeh that this Preda would not be able to be mizavik with the min of its mother. So you have a klar raya shmamina. So fukim misafkule shmamina. If it was vada in choshen l'zarav, you would be able to be mizavik to priyamayim. The Brayja says that everybody agrees, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that you cannot be mizavik to priyamayim. It's a klar raya that he has a suffix whether or not it's choshen l'zarav or not. And you have to go l'chumra in either way. Shmamina. Gbaltik. Amalei Rav Abba l'Shabbat. Rav Abba told the Shabbos, when you hook up my wagon with donkeys to pull my wagon, ima eilisli could nisa berispik, if you're going to use donkeys to pull my wagon, I want to be sure that they both share the same mother. And therefore, Ayin lahanich the dami and ladodi. Make sure they both have long ears and they both have short tails. Make sure they all have the same attributes, so I will know that they both have the same type of mother. And then va'ayu.
The Lablida strikes again.
We learned about Clyde today.
No, about Rispik. Gemara says in getting Saka Rispik Chayv Besa.
So we're talking about the sugya
wagons.
chazoin. Okay, here Alma Kasovar. You see from here that Rav Abba held ein chosnu zera'at, and he's only concerned about the mother. And if you find two animals that you know have the same mother, you can work together. You don't have to worry about the father. So you see, he holds ein chosnu zera'at befada, not besotah. Now the question is, there's a shiloh over here of an Isser Derais of Klayim, and he's going to rely on the length of the behemoth's ears to be mekel of a Sovek Deraisa. So turning on to Amud Beis. I'm trying to get my cursor in the right place. What's his name? Okay. You see, they also hold with Simon and Daraisa. He must hold that you're allowed to rely on Simonim even when it comes to an Issur Daraisa. Because Rashi tells us that there's a Shiloh we know by a Mitzvah, you give it back with Simon. But that could be maybe because it's a takana of to give it back. How do you know that even Midaraisa, Lukula, you could be Soymech on Simonim? Here you have a Raya because he was Soymech on Simonim even when it came to a Sovik Isser of Klein. I just want to pause for a minute because I love when we learn when we lay in a pasuk with the Parashat Shavua, it's referencing a Gemara that we recently learned. We recently learned, I think about 2 weeks ago, we learned a Gemara that says that there are certain psukim, I think it's Rish Lakish who said it, there are certain psukim that when you look at them at first glance, you think they should be burnt because they're completely irrelevant to anything. But once you're ma'aydin them, you realize that they're very, very important. And the Gemara quotes the pasuk in this week's parsha, where it tells us that the Kaftorim took over the land of some other nationality. I don't remember who it was. And why would I care if the Kaftorim took over the land from these people? So up to Gemara, because the people who they took over the land from were Einiklach of the Plishtim. They were Plishtim. And the Plishtim were Einiklach of Avimelech. And Avram Avinu made a commitment to Avimelech. In Tishkar Li Ulanini Lunechti, Avram Avinu made a commitment that he would never bother the children of Avimelech. So we couldn't go and take over Eretz Yisrael from the Plishtim because they were children of Avimelech. So what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that the Kaftorim should take away the land from the Plishtim. Now it's fair game, and that's why the Torah tells us Kaftorim, that the Torah, Hashem made it that the Kaftorim should take over, so that now Klal Yisrael can take it. The same thing with the land of Moab. The parsha this week says, "I'll touch it's Moab." You're not allowed to check with Moab. So we would have never been able to take over the land of Moab. But what did Hashem do? He made Sicha and Melech HaAmoiri take them over, and from the Amoiri we were allowed to take the land. So that's an important limud that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure to adjust things that we would be able to take over the land. And that was the Hanukkah parsha. Taner Rabbanan, Oisei Bes Benoi, the Isser of Oisei Bes Benoi, Noig Beklayim. Even if you have Klayim, it's Noig. How do we know that? Just learned it yesterday. Oi, Jar Oisei, Oile Rabbis is a Klayim. Ubekvi, even a Kvi, which we'll see what that is soon, even a Kvi, there's an Isser of Oisei Bes Benoi. But Rebbe Eliezer Eimer, Klayim, Abom, and Ejum, and Arachel, if it's Klayim, but it's both parents are a min behema, there oisai vespenoi noim. But a kvi, which is a suffix chaya, ein oisai vespenoi noim. So Reb Chisda is going to explain this machlik. Ein zeu kvi shenechleku boy Rabbi Eliezer v'chacham. What are exactly the makeup of this kvi that Rabbi Eliezer holds? There's no din klayim, and the Rabbanan holds. Rabbi Eliezer holds there's no din oisav espenoi, and the Rabbanan hold there is a din oisav espenoi. What exactly is that kvi? Now, somebody once told me that a kvi is something that we bred a tzvi with a tayosh, we bred a chay with a behema to make our own thing, to create a creation that the Rebbeinu didn't make. So we think that we need to do something better than the Rebbeinu Shalom made. And kvi is Rosh Tevis koichi v'oitzim yadi. That's what somebody was telling me.
Wow.
So Zok to Gemara, what exactly is this kvi that there's a machlokes where Rabbi Eliezer holds is no din, oisav es penoi, and the Rabbanan holder is. Zok Rabbi Eliezer, ze abba min tayish umin tzviya. The father was a tayish, the father was a behema, and a ram, and the mother was a tzviya, was a female deer.
Another ram.
Another
ram. I'm sorry, a goat. A goat.
A goat and a deer. So let's try to analyze what's going on. Ilema b'tayish abala tzviya. If you're talking about a tayish abala tzviya, the older they gave birth, so this baby is a kfi. And the question is, can you shech the mother and the daughter on the same day? The chashachet law ulabra, and that's where there's a machlokes. You can't say that there's a machlokes there. You know why? Because everybody would agree there that there's no din oisav espenoi. Why not? If the mother is a tzviya, ubinot tayish, shepoter. You know why? Because the Torah says se ubinoi omer rachmana. The focus is not on the min of the child. The focus is on the min of the mother. The mother has to be a se. If the mother's a tzviya, there's no din oisav espenoi. V'loi tzviya ubinoi. So there can't be a machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanon about such a kvi, because everybody would be moida that there's no din oisav espenoi for such a kvi. So we need to explore where is the case where there's this machlokes over here. Ella, let's say it's mitzvi habal tiyasha. The father was a deer, and the mother was a behem. The yolda, and they gave birth to a mixed kfi. Because and the shylins, can you shech the tiyasha, the female goat? How do you say female goat in English?
I don't know.
No, the female goat. The question is, there's a machlokes if you're allowed to shech it on the same day as this kfi. Zok that can't be either. That's also kula alma would be moida. That is also oisav espenoi. The Omer B'chista kol moedin b'hi tiyasha u'b'not tzvi shechayiv because se Omer Rachmana u'b'noi koldu. The b'noi doesn't matter. The mother matters, and this mother is a se. And if this mother is a se, they're subjects to the iser of oisav espenoi. So we need to find a case where there would be a machlokes. Zok to Gemara la'olam b'tayish habol tzvi. Let's say the machlokes is in a case where a male tayish was born a female tzviya, the yolda bas, and they gave birth to a kaviyah, and then the kaviyah ubas yolda ben, and then the kaviyah had a child. And the question is of the oisav espenoi is the kaviyah and the kaviyah's child. The chashachet lo ulabra, and now we can understand the machlokes. Rabbanan savri choshishin l'zera av. The Rabbanan told you choshish l'zera av. So this kvi has a father who is a seh. So therefore, you have a kvi that's part seh, because we're choshish l'zera av, and the av is a seh. Now, even though the av is a seh, this kvi is not pure seh. This kvi is part seh and part tzvi. But everybody agrees, this seh, va'afilu miktzah seh. Even if it's only part seh, it's going to be included in the iser of oisav espenoi. So therefore, if you hold choshishin l'zera ha'av, that means this kviya that was born to the Tayish, and the tzviya has Tayish in her, has set in her. And without there's some set in her, she is subject to the restrictions of Oishev Espanoi, and that's the Shita of the Rabbanah. And Rabbi Eliezer Savar ain't Choshen Zara. The Zara is not Choshen for at all. So that means this Kvi has the din of a Tzviya in Gansen. And therefore, V'sev afilu mitzaseh lo yamrina. You can't say sev afilu mitzaseh. You know why? Because we don't even have mitzaseh. We don't even have mitzaseh. This is pure tzviya. Because ain't choshishin l'zera. Beautiful. So here's your machlokes. If choshishin l'zera or not, if you hold choshishin l'zera then it will be under the prohibition of oishev espanoi. If you hold ain't choshishin l'zera then this is pure tzviya, and there's no isser of oishev espanoi. That's the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer. Frank the Gemara, if their whole machlokes is whether or not or not, why pick such a convoluted case? The simplest form of the discussion of Choshen Lazar Av is the machlokes Chananya and the Rabbanon. Let their machlokes just be: is it Oisah ve'espina, or is it even Oisah ve'espina? And that's the simplest way to express the machlokes of Choshen Zara. Why look at such a convoluted case where Tayish was Balat Tzviya, and then they had a child, and then this child had another child? It's a little bit complex. Let's spell Tayish. We're just looking for a simple case that'll illustrate the machlokes of Choshen Zara. Zok Gemara, there's a very important reason why B'dafke the Gemara chaperom. So, furthermore, live like the Choshen Zara out, then pull to the Chananya v'Rabbanah. Dr. Gemara, because there's a very important rule over here, and I'm going to speak it out outside before we learn it inside. We had another component here. We had the svar of seh, v'afilu miktzah seh. In order to say that there'll be an Isser voice of Espanoi, according to the Rabbanan over here, they had to hold Choshen L'Zera Av, which was a Tayish, and even though it's only part seh, because the mother was a Tzviya, Sev afilu mitzvah sev will also invoke the Isra voice of Espanoi. And that's the chiddush maybe that this brayta wanted to convey. So it had to pick a more complex case to illustrate that halacha of Sev afilu mitzvah sev. Let's see that inside. We would have thought that everyone's moida by a kvi that there's no denoise of Espanoi. The Sev afilu mitzvah sev lo yamina. Because you don't say Sev afilu mitzvah seh. Maybe the Israel of Espanoi only applies if it's pure 100% seh. Kamash Malan, that the Israel of Espanoi even applies if it's miktsas seh. Beautiful. So now let's look at another Mishnah and see how it fits into the picture over here. We have a Mishnah. And we know there's a halacha. If you shech a chaya, you have to make kisu adam. If you shech a behema, you don't have to make kisu adam. So I think the either the chinuch or the Meshech Chochmah is masber why there's a mitzvah of kisu adam bedavke by a chaya, not by behema. Teretz is because you could never bring a chaya on the mizbeach. So people would have thought that when is there an isur to eat dam that you're going to put onto the mizbeach, but dam of a chaya which will never go on the mizbeach, maybe you're allowed to eat that dam. So the Torah said make kisu dam to remind us that you're not allowed to have any dam at all, even the dam of a chaya. That's what someone wanted to try now. Beautiful shot. But I'll call upon him. The dam of a behemoth doesn't need kisu dam. So what about if you wanted to shech a kvi on Yom Tov? If it's a suffix, you have a problem. Because misafik, you wouldn't be allowed to make kisu adam, yet you have to make kisu adam. So therefore the Mishnah tells us the Tanan, kvi, ain't shoych the noise of Yom. Don't shech the kvi on Yom Tov, because you're going to have a suffix to do kisu adam. And even if you did shech it wrongfully, you can't make kisu adam, because we're not sure if this kvi is chayiv in kisu adam or not.
Why can't you have an offer ready?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm not sure what the issue of kisu adam is. How is that violating halacha of Yom Tov. I'm not sure.
Yeah. You have to dig the offer. You have to smash
So
it
where's
up.
there an issue there? So what's the malacha? I'm
Chayrish,
not sure what the malacha is.
the chayrish.
What?
You're digging up the offer.
Well, that can't be the problem. You know why? Because then you have your kasha prepared before Yom Tov.
Right. That's what I'm wondering.
The Rashi says covering it the dam with offer will somehow be a violation. I don't know why. I don't know why it would be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So Zog to Gemara, what exactly is the case? What type of tviyah are we talking about? If we're talking about a tayish that was balat tviyah, the yolda bain, and it had a child, and you're shechting this child, and now there's a topic if you have to make kisada. Let's think about it. Bain l'rabbanon, so v'yolda, tayish about v'yolda, come. Bain l'rabbanon, bain l'rabbanon, lishchait v'lichsi. Everybody should agree that this is vadaya tzvi. Why? Because the mother's a tzviya. So if the mother's a tzviya, even if you're chayshish l'zera, so it's part tzvi, but it's still part tzvi, and we hold tzvi v'afilu miktzas tzvi. If you hold seh v'afilu miktzas seh, we would hold tzvi v'afilu miktzas tzvi. So according to everybody, there's a chiv kisada. So what's the problem? Ella, what it must be, is it's speaking with tzvi abola tiyosha. The mother was a behema. The father was a chai. Father was a tzvi. The older they gave birth. So now it's still not going to be good. Either Rabbanon, if you're going to go according to the Rabbanon, who holds ein choishishin, who holds choishishin l'zarav, the Rabbanon holds choishishin l'zarav. Either Rabbanon lishchait v'lechsi. It's a tzvi abol tiyosha. So the zarav is a tzvi. Make the shchita, and you can make yisudam. What's the problem? And either Rabbi Lazar, where ein choishishin l'zarav, so this is a pure tayyid, so we know for sure it doesn't need kisadam. Lishchad v'leneksi. So we have this machlokes if choishin l'zara av or not, and it seems like nobody's shita would stem with this mishnah that says that you cannot check the kfi on Yom Tov because it's a sof. Zog to Gemara, I'll tell you the answer. La'olam b'tzvi habal atiyosha. And therefore, so tzvi habal atiyosha, according to Rabbi Eliezer, ain't choshin l'zera'av, and therefore, it's vadai not mechuyev in kisodah. But v'rabbanon mesuva mesavkalu l'choshin l'zera'av. The rabbanon have a sobek b'choshin l'zera'av. So therefore, mesavkalu l'choshin l'zera'av, he ain't choshin. And therefore, we're not sure if this has tzvi in it or not. On the side that it has tzvi in it from the zera, you would need kisada. But on the side that ain't choshul zera, there's no tzvi here. It doesn't need kisada. If part of the suffix, we're telling this mishnah according to the Rabbanon, and they're misupik if choshul zera or not. Beautiful. Zok to Gemara, umide l'Rabbanon misafkalu. If you're going to say that the Rabbanon hold it's a suffix, if choishin l'zerav, they're not vaday choishin l'zerav, it's only a suffix, so it must be l'Rabbi Eliezer pshita loy that you're not choishin l'zerav, because otherwise how is there a machlokes? So the Rabbanon are mesupik the choishin l'zerav. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're vaday not choishin l'zerav. The problem is we can have now another brisa that we can have to shtalayim. V'od Tanya hazuroya v'alachayayim v'akev. These are matnas kohuna that whenever you shech an animal, you have to give these matanos to the kohen. But it's not every animal; it's only a behema and not a chay. You have to give the arm, the cheeks, and the tongue, and the stomach. So the halach is the bride is not hagen b'kfi. You have to give matnas kohuna by a kfi and by klayim. And Rabbi Eliezer holds klayim abom and the ezu bin arochel tavade behema kayv b'matanos. But the minat kvi will be potter from matan. So what type of kvi is this machloik is talking about? The Mayaskinu. If the father was a tayyid and the mother was a tzviya, the yolda and it gave birth, and now you have a behemoth or a chayah, you have a tzvi that has the mother a tzviya and the father a tayish. According to Rabbi Eliezer, who holds his part of a matnas kuna, because he holds ain't close to l'zera, and the tayish abal tzviya is a vadai chayah, and there's no din of zroya l'chayayim and kid. B'shlam Rabbi Eliezer the potar kasover seh v'afilu mikzah seh lo yamrinon. He holds that there's no mikzah seh here. You know why? Because ain't chosh l'zera. So you don't even have a tiny bit of tayish here. This is all pure chayah. So it makes very much sense why Rabbi Elazar holds his potter. But why would the Rabbanan hold chayah? Elo the Rabbanan nihidek asavri seva afilu miktaseh. Even though they hold that there is miktaseh here, because you're choishish l'zera, you still shouldn't have to give matas kum. Because let's break it down. Bishlam apalga lo yaivlei, the chatzi kvi, that's not mechuyev matana. So having the matanos that are represented by the tzvi component of this tzvi, zikr lo yaivlei. Now the other half, which might be a tayish. Now remember, we just said that the Rabbanan don't say vadei choshin l'zera. They have a suffix if choshin l'zera. So even the tzad tayish shaboy, even the tzad sesaboy, let the owner of the animal tell the kohen, I see right the choshin l'zera u'shkoil. It's a suffix if choshin l'zera. So it's a suffix if there's even a part say here. I'm not giving the coin anything because prove to me that there's any set over here. So that's not a case in which this machlokes could be valid. Ella, what are you going to have to say? The case was b'tzvi habala tiyosha, where the mother was a vadei behema and the father was a tzvi. V'yolda they gave birth. So now let's turn it around. According to the Rabbanon, where it's a suffix, my chai, it'll be chai bechatzi matot. Why? Because the chelik hatiyotze shaboy, that's the mother, that's vaday mechuyev in matonos. The chelik hatzvi shaboy, it's a suffix if choshin l'zera or not. So that you don't have to give to the kohen, but happy for sure have to give. So that explains the cheat of the Rabbanon that you're mechuyev to give matonos. Elul Rabbi Eliezer, who holds vaday ein choshin l'zera ha'av. So this is a pure tayish. It's a pure behema. Why does Rabbi Eliezer hold your pot from matanos? L'chai b'kul matanos. It's a pure tayish, pure behema. You should have to give all the matanos. So we're stuck. If you want to learn that the Rabbanan holds it to suffix, and Rabbi Eliezer holds vaday in choshin l'zera ha'av, it is mulach it in. Zog to Gemara la'olam b'tzvi habal tiyosh. Let's say it's habal tiyosh. If the older they gave birth. You're going to ask me, according to Rabbi Eliezer, you should be mechuyev in matanos? No, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, when he says ein choshin l'zera av, it's a suffix. Rabbi Eliezer nami sfukim esavkalei I choshin l'zera av ilot. So therefore, on the tzad that you're choshin l'zera av, you wouldn't be mechuyev in half the matanos. Right? The Gemara, if the chivin de l'rabbanim esavkalu. If they both have a suffix, if choshin l'zera ha'av or not, so where's the machlokes? They both agree to exactly the same halacha. So how are you going to work with that? Talk to Gemara. We're going to have to learn a nice part of Pei Amar Aleph, so we don't have to wait until tomorrow for payday. We're going to get our payday tonight because we're mamish in the middle of something. So the Gemara wants to know if they both agree that it's a suffix, what is the machlokes? So let's turn on to Pei Amar Aleph. So to Gemara, up until now, we assumed that everybody agrees to the principle of seh va'afilu miktzah seh. Now Dr. Gemara, no, that's gufa what the machlokes is between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabban. They both agree that it's a suffix if chayshinon lezera ha'av or not. The machlokes is if you say seh va'afilu miktzah seh. Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan hold, seh, va'afilu miktzah seh, would have the din of a seh. Rabbi Eliezer Savar, seh, v'loy miktzah seh. So now let's see how this fits in, because we remember we had a machlokes by Yosy B'Espinoi, we had a halacha by Kisa Adam, and we had a machlokes by Zeroya, L'chayayim, and Kevin. So let's see how everything fits in. Amr Papa, Hilchach, Le'inin Kisi Adam, L'gaber Shayla of Kisei Adam, Umatonois, and Matnois Kahuna. So for Kisei Adam, it needs to be a tzvi, and for Matnois, it needs to be a behema. Loi Mishkachas Lo, you know where these halachas would fit in? Ela b'tzvi aba ala tiyah, where the father was a tzvi, and the mother was a tiyah. Therefore, Bein l'Rabbanon, Bein l'Rabbi Eliezer, Misafkaluhu, everybody agrees it's a suffix if there's any tzvi here at all, because it's a suffix if choshen l'zara'af. Where is the machlokes? The kamivet libeseh va'afilu miktzah seh, and the machlokes is by seh va'afilu miktzah seh. So let's have a look. Le'inin kisa adam. It says that you shouldn't shecht on Yom Tov because it's a suffix if you have to make kisu adam. Well, if it's a tzvi habal tiyasha, it's a suffix whether or not this is a tzvi or not. About it's a suffix if this is a tzvi or not, then you can't shecht. That's very simple. Like matnas kuna, we have a machlokes where the Rabbanan hold that you do give matanos, and your below holds you don't. Why? Because it's a tzvi abalatiyot, meaning it's zicher part behema. It's a suffix if it's a tzvi or not. The Rabbanan hold behema v'afilu mitzvah behema. Since it's part behema, you give matas kuna. You give half the matas kuna. You don't give whole, but you give half. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, he holds you don't say seh v'afilu mitzvah seh. So therefore, if it's part tzvi and part behema, it'll be potter in ganzen from matanos. Beautiful. That explains those two machlokes. Now let's get into Yosy B'Espinoi. In Yosy B'Espinoi, where there's a machlokes as well, mishkachas la, there the machlokes could be bein b'tayis shabol tzviya ubein b'tzviya bol tiyasha. In either case, there would be a machlokes if there's an iser of Yosy B'Espinoi. Let's start with Tayish Abala Tzviya. If it's Tayish Abala Tzviya, and the nafkamina would be the Yisur Derabban, is it mutter in Ganzin, or is it only Aser Midarabban? If it's only Aser, but the Zikr not Malchus. Why? The Rabbanan Sabri, the Rabbanan hold, we have a suffix, Til Machashin in Lazera. Maybe we're Choshish Lazera. Remember, we're speaking about Tayish Habal Tzviya. So it's Tayish Habal Tzviya. Maybe we're Choshish Lazera Av, and it's part Seh, part Behema, and the Rabbanan hold Seh, Vafilu Miktzah Seh Amrina, and therefore V'Aser. It's going to be Aser to Shech Yosy B'Espinoi because it's possible that this is a part Seh, and therefore would be Aser to do Yosy B'Espinoi, but Avadi wouldn't get Malchus because it's only a suffix if it's part set. And Rabbi Eliezer would hold, Rabbi Eliezer suffer, Ni Nami, the Chosh L'Zarav, even on the side that you're Chosh L'Zarav and it's part set, that wouldn't create an issue Yosy B'Espinoi because Sev, Afilu Mitzah Seh, Lo Yamrina. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you don't say Sev, Afilu Mitzah Seh. So at most, this is only a part set. There would not be an Isser of Yosy B'Espinoi. They could also be arguing by Tzvi Abala Tiyasha. But then everyone's going to admit that it's Usser. The question merely if there will be Malchus. So Rabbanan Savi, the Rabbanan hold, Nihi Nami, the Choshin Lazera, even though you Choshish Lazera, and there might be some tzvi here, but their zicher is tayish here because the mother was a tayish. Therefore, sev afilu mitzvah se amrina, it's vaday also because there's for sure some se here, and even mitzvah se is enough. Therefore, if he did oisev es benot umalkinen like, he would get malchus. Rabbi Lezer's over yisur ika because there might be in ganzen set. If you all think choshen was there, it's in ganzen set. So there might it's for sure also to do, but malchus lekum. But you couldn't give them malchus. Isura ika. The reason why there's isur dilma in choshen uzera av the haisem alyu, and it's a complete set. But malchus leko, you can't give malchus for it because dilma choshen uzera av. Maybe your choshen uzera av, and this is part tzvi, and if it's part tzvi and part seh. Rabbi Eliezer holds that's not going to have an Isra Oshev Espanoi because V'seh, Afilu Mitzvah Seh, Lo Yamrinan. Gewaltig. So basically now we have and we understand the machloikis between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanon and how it works out to explain their machloikis by Oshev Espanoi, by Matnas Kahuna, and how it works out at a kfi you cannot shech on Yom Tov because it'll be a suffix if you have a chiyuv of Kisu Adamrinan. Yeah. What a beautiful sugya.
Good. Could be the problem with the kisei dam is if it's a behema, you can't make it's a malacha on Yantiv. You can't do it.
What's the malacha? What's the malacha? Putting earth on blood is a malacha?
No, you're digging it up. It's talking about you digging it up.
I mean, but what if you prepared it before? I mean, the bottom layer you can prepare before. The top layer you still got to dig up.
Yeah.
There's a chayrish.
Yeah.
Okay, gewaltig. Goyach.
Good.
Good
Gitvach.